All right, then I think we're live. It says we are, like 24 seconds in. If you guys can hear me loud and clear, give me a who in the comment section. Say hello, say yeah, I can hear you, and we can get started here in a couple minutes. So yeah, working with a delay today. Yeah, so I did a lot of kind of research on how this program works, how the delay works, and honestly, not really anything I can do about it. We're just gonna deal with the questions when they come up. All right, good. So the sound is ready to go. I have it running up on another monitor so I can see the comments that come in before they get to me, just so I can keep an eye on my delay. But like I said, there's not really much I can do about that. Let me turn this shit off. And we're just going to rock it and see what we come up with. So as you guys know, members take priority. And if you are a member, just so I can see if I can find it or I can kind of distinguish which ones are which inside of this program. If you are a member of the YouTube channel, just say, hey, I'm a member before you put your question in. And that way I can see if it shows any kind of different icon or anything so I can find out who you are. So yeah, how's everybody doing? It's Sunday. It's been a long week. It feels weird not uploading content on Friday. I know I had something in the works, but I just couldn't get it done. I had appointments. So, but I was looking forward to actually uploading some stuff, but it just means I'll have to do it next week. So yeah, let's go ahead and see what we have coming in here. Oh, okay. So I got on the other screen, we have John, who is a member, who said, yo, I'm waiting for it to pop up on my screen. See if it shows anything. Waiting for it, John. All right, let's see. It does on the other screen. No, it does not show up on my program differently. So that's kind of strange. I'm going to have to email them and see what they want to do about that to make sure that I can distinguish who you guys are. Nope, not showing. No, it's not showing. Really strange. Anyways, okay, so let's go ahead and get started with some questions here. John says, what are my 3 favorite corals? You guys know that I'm big SPS, so I would say the Red Planet is one of my favorite. That $500 F-Flow that you guys can actually see right behind the purple Monty there, or purple stylo in the middle of the tank. It's behind there. I did put a piece up front to see if I could find any spot for it. But so that $500 F-Flow, that shelving acro, really love that one. And I'm a big fan, obviously, as you can tell, of the green Slimer. So, since I have it in like 2 different spots on one rock structure. But yeah, so we got Red Planet, the $500 F-Flow, and the green Slimer. Those are my favorites. Now, unfortunately, the Red Planet in the 300 is not doing so well. It's getting shaded out and it's getting just killed by a bunch of coral. So I don't know how long that one's going to last. But I did frag a piece of it and put it in the grow out system just in case. Yeah, so let's go to move on. So if you are a member, just say you are before you put your question in there, and I'll put this up on the members chat or the community forum, because obviously it's not showing up on my end and I don't want to miss your guys' questions, because that's part of the perks of being one. So yeah, kind of bummed about that. So let's go to move down. Oop, misclick there. How can I safely get an anemone out of my tank? Its foot is in a big rock. Well, that's probably the hardest part. Are you able to get your finger underneath there or anywhere where his foot is or its foot is? Usually what I do is I put my finger right where it is actually connected, and I just kind of massage it a little bit, and it will eventually come up. So try doing that. If you can't get it out, then you can either change the flow in the tank, because that usually pisses them off and forces them to move around the tank. You might be able to snag one while he's moving, or take the rock out. So those are really your only options. If anybody has any other advice, let me know. But that seems to be what I usually do. Let's go to move down. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the stream. Everybody coming in. I did fix the background, so you won't see me clicking so much to change the background video. I actually have it set up so it's like 2.5 hours long, switches between a bunch of scenes, and we can keep it kind of consistent, so I don't have to worry about that. Let's move on to the next question. Any point on when you don't need to do a water change? Well, it usually comes down to why you're doing one in the first place. Are you doing a water change to room detritus like I am? Because that's pretty much the only reason why I do it, is just to make sure the bottom of the tank looks pretty good, because it is bare bottom. Are you using water changes to take care of your major elements, so your alkalinity, your calcium, your magnesium? If you are dosing with 2-part, or you have a calcium reactor and that's taking care of your major elements, and you don't have a lot of detritus, and say you're dosing refuel or if that's something like that that supplements those micro elements, then really water changes isn't something that you'll have to do. So yeah, it's pretty up to you, but it just depends on what you're using your water changes for now. Move up here. What all do you dose that the calcium reactor does not give you? Okay, so the calcium reactor right now takes care of obviously calcium alkalinity with the coral breakdown, and it takes care of my magnesium with Rio Mag chips. Now I dose Refuel 2 times a week, 100 milliliters both times. I dose AcroPower again, 100 milliliters every or twice a week. So it's going to be like a Wednesday and a Sunday usually when I dose. And I dose phytoplankton every other day, 30 milliliters, and which I've actually started doing every day. I've kind of got my nutrients to the point where I'm comfortable doing phytoplankton every day. But worst case scenarios every other day or every 2 days. What do I got here? We got the iodine. I dose that. I don't remember the brand. Brightwell Aquatics, I think. Iodine. It's a little dropper. I dose that twice a week, 5 drops. And I think that's it. What else do I got? Potassium. Yeah, potassium is twice a week, 50 milliliters each. And I use the blue box of Fritz, which has a pretty high amount of potassium, so I don't have to dose as much of that. All right, moving down. How long do I run fresh water in a freshly plumbed tank to clean out the vapors and smell once I tested? What do you mean? How long do I run fresh water in a freshly plumbed tank to clean out the vapors? Okay, so I don't really worry about that. I've talked about actually plumbing a system that is currently up and running. I just turn off the bulk or turn off the power head and maybe turn off the bulkhead or whatever, or the not the bulkhead, the ball valve. If I have to like add another tank or anything like that, and then I just give it probably 10 or 15 minutes and then turn it on. It's not an issue. I've actually had the plumber, whatever heck you want to call it, the actual glue drip into the tank. It just floats at the surface of the water. And like I said in the previous stream, I think I talked about this, just simply run carbon if you have any issues, if you think you're worried about contaminating the tank. But I've dripped plenty of glue into the 300, just adding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different tanks so far since it's been up, and never had a problem with it. Do you recommend quarantining corals bought from you? I recommend quarantine corals as a good, as something you should be doing anyways. For me, I still do. I don't have anything on here that could be an issue. The only thing that I do have in this tank I've talked about is verminted snails, but I check all my corals. They don't grow on the corals. They could come in on a frag plug, but I still recommend you should quarantine either way. I'm willing to bet most people who buy acros from the 300 don't quarantine, but I still recommend that you should. But there's another thing you can do as well. You could simply cut off the acro from the disc or the plug, and then you can just put it on a new plug or put it directly into your quarantine tank on a whatever. You can put on a rock or whatever you want. It's up to you, but I still think you should quarantine regardless of who you get them from. Let's go to move down here. I got to scroll up. As I said before, it skips all the way down and then brings me back up. So I gotta go find. There we go. Found you here. What is the pink feathery thing on the far right of your tank? That is a Grub's Gorgonian. It's on the website if you want to check it out. Next question. I'm currently not putting more corals into my tank and waiting for the 4 LPS I have and 1 flower nem to grow out. It's been 4 months. Should I add some soft? Yeah, you can add some soft corals to that. It's pretty much up to you, whatever you want to add to your tank. Whatever you're comfortable with. I don't really see, if you're just waiting for them to grow out. LPS is not something that I enjoy waiting to grow out. It usually takes forever to grow. That's why I really like sticking with SPS, because it's one of those things that you can put in a tank, come back a month later, and it's either, it's grown a couple inches or whatever, and you can just really see the tank grow even on a weekly basis if you're paying attention to it. So, you can add whatever you want at that point. Do I sell or do you sell any food products online? I do not. I do make my own food. I sell it locally. I don't sell it online because shipping is ridiculous, and it's probably easier for you just to make it yourself instead of wasting the money on shipping. Let's go to move down. That's good. Glenn said, yeah, use an ice cube. The foot works for the nem. Obviously, you got to get it before it melts all the way, but it's a good call. If you can get it down there at the foot, use the ice cube for that. Let's go ahead and move down. Why is it? I'm trying to wonder why, Mose, your question came up twice. That's strange. All right, let's see. I have almost no phosphates or nitrates in my tank, yet there's ammonia. Do you know why this is? Well, how old is the tank, Dan? If you have no nitrates and no phosphates, it's just you're not through the cycle yet. If you're showing ammonia, then you're not through your cycling process. I'm assuming the tank is relatively new. I would wait to get through that whole process. So it's pretty simple. You're going to start off with ammonia, which then breaks down to nitrites. And then there's a bacteria breaks the nitrites down to nitrates. And that's when you're going to start seeing nitrates on that test kit. At that point, you shouldn't have any more ammonia in the tank, assuming that you have enough rock and everything, and you don't have a ton of fish or you're not feeding the tank, you should be good to go. But yeah, you're probably not through your cycle yet. So keep an eye on that. You don't add any more fish, or don't add any fish, and don't add any coral to get through that process. Dan, feel free to put like part 2 in your question, and maybe we'll come to it and I can see how old your tank is and what you got going on to kind of answer that question a little bit more. Next question. If you can move the rock that is on the, if you can move the rock that is on the dark place, they tend to move. And okay. So that's with the anemones again. Yeah. If you move, you can either change the flow or you can move the rock to a dark section. They'll move to where they get the light and they can get where the flow is. It's good that you guys are answering each other's questions. I appreciate that. I just don't want to click on them and accidentally read your answer. Sound like an idiot. Let's go to move down here. Greg, I just bought a used 180-gallon tank with fish, rock, and sand. I didn't but sand back. I probably I didn't put sand back. That's probably what you meant, buddy. I didn't put the sand back into the tank. Just have in buckets covered. Should I decide to add it to water later? Okay. So I would, if you just bought a used tank from somebody, I would honestly not use the rock, and I would not use the sand because you don't really know where that rock has been. The sand is really easy to replace. The thing with rock is I bought used rock in the past. I think one of my first builds I used rock that I picked up from Craigslist. And it was awful because the rock was pretty much abused the guy said it was like 18 years old. I don't know why I bought it, but that was stupid. But I bought used rock, 18 years old, and I put it in my tank, and boy, did that thing leach nutrients. So if it was my build, I would get new rock and new sand. I would cure the rock, and then I would build your system based off the rock being cured. I just don't know if you can put some time into waiting for that. But yeah, that's my personal opinion. But if you want to keep the rock, I would go ahead and at least get new sand. That should make things a little bit easier for you. What does it say? Members here. There we go. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. What light do you have over the Refugium and the 300? They are Reef Brights. They're the mix of the 3K and the 5K, I believe. I got it from geosreef.com. I'm drinking some, what the hell tea is this right now? It's pretty freaking good. It's like a detox tea. I think I talked about that last time. This is a different one. Don't worry about it. I won't have to go to the bathroom so soon. So don't worry about that. But yeah, so the Reef Brights, I got them from geosreef.com, which was part of the sump that I got from him as well. I appreciate you putting the member in there because, again, I'm not seeing that on my end. Let's go ahead and, yes, that is the correct iodine that I'm using. Okay, let's go to move down. Do you think you can turn a Fowler tank that was once treated with cupramine into a reef? I would not. You might get away with easy corals like GSP and some zoas and maybe some mushrooms and stuff, but you probably won't have a good time with SPS, depending on how much it was actually put in there. How much copper was in there. I wouldn't mess with it. It's just not something I would do. Plus, is there any inverts in the tank? That too could really piss them off. Some people get lucky with it, depending on how long it was dosed for and how much was put in there, but I wouldn't risk it, especially if you want to invest money into higher end corals and you're starting to really put some money into that. I wouldn't bother. I would keep it a Fowler. Let's go to move down here. There, scrolled all the way down. Give me a second. Okay, Mike. Transferred a yellow coarse wrasse from my QT main display and haven't seen it since. How long before do I worry? Seen some people say a week or so. Wrasses can be iffy. If it's getting bullied, is there any other wrasses in the tank that might be messing with it? I would say you can give it all the time you want, but unless you plan on taking the tank apart and going to search for it, I would just let kind of nature do its thing. If it's still alive, it will be out eventually. Just feed the tank and keep doing things normal. Don't cause any extra stress by putting your hands in there or moving rocks around or trying to find the fish. You're just probably going to scare some more if it's still alive. And yeah, if you have other wrasses in there, he could be getting bullied. There could be something going on. You get some aggressive tangs. I know that my the blue here, the blue powder blue tang, he tends to be a little aggressive towards the Melanoris, but he's the only one. So the Melanor sticks up for himself for the most part, but you never know. Just see if there's any aggression or anything going on there. But yeah. Let's go move down here. Sorry for the silence. I should probably put some music on in the background, but then I'll get a strike instead of having all this dead silence while I'm looking, trying to friggin' scroll through these comments to find one that's not too far delayed. But I don't feel like getting a strike because you can only get 3 on YouTube before they say goodbye and then you're done. Which would you do to get nitrates up? Dose or feed heavily or reduce overall size of skimmer time? Okay. I personally dose NO3 and PO4 to keep those level. I use an auto doser, the Apex auto doser, and I don't know, my amounts change every couple weeks depending on kind of how I'm feeding, what's going on. Plus, I have fish in the 300 now that are killing each other. I lost one of my chromuses 2 days ago. He got beat up by one of the tangs. They're just running out of room. I mean, you can see the Bemmingi tang is turning around and they're pretty tight. But yeah, they're running out of room with the coral and they're just starting to go at each other. So a lot of people are like, "Hey, the tank looks empty. There's no fish." Well, not really much I can do about that. Coral or fish. I can't really have both at the moment. So when it comes to increasing them, I'm a big fan of using a reliable source that you can control. So dosing nitrates is my preferred method. And it's also cheaper in the long run compared to how much you'll have to feed to keep things stable. Guys, make sure you hit the thumbs up so we can see what we got going on here. I can't see how many we have, but I'm just, I have it scrolling, so you should probably hit the thumbs up for the sake of it. Let's go to move down here. Next question. I'm new to corals. How many can you add at one time? And do you have to a beginner guide? Okay. So I do have a video on the beginner guide talking about how many corals and stuff like that, different types of corals, how many you can add. Those are old ass videos that are just cringy as hell for me to watch. So good luck with those. But if you're new to corals, you're probably going to want to add something like soft corals first, like zoas, mushrooms, leather corals, some gorgonians, stuff like that, some easier photosynthetic ones. And you can add as many as you want because they don't use up any calcium or alkalinity to grow. So you don't have to really monitor that as much as you would if you were to add a whole bunch of SPS to the tank. So as a beginner, you can add as many of those types of corals as you want. I do recommend that you at least quarantine them to see what's going on before you start dumping them into your tank, because you don't want to run into nudibranchs or not nudibranchs, but yeah, nudibranchs, zoa-eating nudibranchs, and just the various pests that can come with them that beginners tend to not pay attention to early on. So yeah, add as many as you want. When you start moving into SPS, you can add as much SPS as you want. So I could have took this whole tank and just filled it full of 200 frags, say 1-inch frags, but I could put as many as in there as I want, as long as I monitor my alkalinity and keep it stable while they're starting to grow. So just depends on your skill level. But since you're new, just stick to however many soft corals that you feel comfortable purchasing at one time. All right, let's go to move down to Dan. Okay, so this is the second part of the question. Appreciate that, man. The tank is 2 months, except all the rock came from an established tank, 7 months. Okay. I've added a bottle of bacteria 3 times, have 5 ppm nitrates, 0.05 phosphates, and my LFS said trace amounts of ammonia. Okay, so so this is the second part of your question. So the 7 months is not really an established reef. We're looking at multiple years is what is considered established reef, and something that I would consider to be anyways. So 2 months old, I would stop with the bacteria. I think 1 time is good. Do you have fish in this tank? Do you have any livestock in this tank? I would, if not, maybe throw a piece of shrimp in a bag, one of those mesh bags, and let it sit in there for the next month or so and let it cycle properly. Bacteria is just kind of a shortcut. You might put the bacteria in there, but the bacteria has to produce. It has to get on the rock. It has to grow. It has to populate to be beneficial overall, to be able to process, the food and the waste that you're putting in the tank. So, 2 months is not very old, even with a 7 months old rock. So I would give it more time and don't add any fish. All right, next question. Do you think flow can be to bring on the rimless aquariums? Okay. Do you think flow can be to bring on rimless aquarium seams? Reggie, I don't know what you mean, buddy. Put that question back in the comment section and just say, remake or whatever. Unless I'm completely out of it, I don't know what you're talking about. Can it be too strong for a rimless aquarium? Seems. Can you have too much flow? Is that what you mean? I wish I could see your answer right away, so I'm not sitting here for 10 minutes waiting. Sorry about that, Reggie. I can't give you an answer on that. Josh, I'm thinking about switching from Instant Ocean to Fritz Blue Box. How do I go about that? I've actually answered this a few times so far, not in this stream, but in the previous one. So when it comes to switching, just stop using your original salt. Start doing your water changes with the new salt. Save the other one for like a quarantine tank or whatever. You're not going to have an issue. Just start using the new salt. And over time, over a period of a month or two, when you're doing the water changes every week or every other week, you'll eventually completely switch over. Last thing you want to do is a 50% water change, or even bigger, or 100%. My chair squeaking. That's the last thing you want to do when switching salts. Just start doing 10, 20% with the new salt. You'll be good to go. All right, moving down here. All right, when do you recommend setting up a Refugium? My tank is 4 days old, still cycling using Dr. Tim's fish cycle. Okay, wait till you have nitrates up on your test kit. So go through the ammonia to nitrites, and then once you get to nitrates, go ahead and start your Refugium then. Just so you can avoid the macroalgae possibly dying, save you some money. You can start it now, but there is a chance that the macroalgae will die because it won't have a proper source of nutrients. All right, moving down here. How old? Oh, okay. Let's see here. Let's move down. Here we go. Is there any way to use used rock if you cure it like you did the dry rock from the 300? You can cure used rock, but one thing you want to do is during that curing process. So you're obviously going to go through the ammonia, nitrates, and then you're going to see you might have some phosphates on there as well. You're going to want to test your nutrients. So what I would do is once it gets cycled and you're just seeing nitrates and phosphates on your test kits, then do a 50% water change and then wait a week or so and then test your nitrates and phosphates and kind of see what you're getting out of the rock. If you got used rock and you're getting super, super high nitrates and phosphates on your test kit while it's in the curing drum, then that's a good indication that there's a lot of excess nutrients in the rock, which will then leach into the tank when it goes into when you have it set up in the main display. So keep an eye on your nutrients. If they're relatively low during that process, then I would feel confident about putting the tank. Again, if it's really high, I would probably pass on it. And then, of course, make sure you figure out where the rock came from. Is a good source, someone who didn't just dump a bottle of freaking chlorine or piss or coopermine or whatever into the tank. You want to make sure it's a good source. And don't buy it off Craigslist. Big mistake on that one. All right, going down here. Is Kalkwasser/lime water damaging long-term to all my equipment that what comes in contact with? Yes, Kalkwasser can be pretty damaging to the pump that's pumping it out of the solution. I've never really had an issue with it being like in the tank water in general, like with other pumps or power heads or anything. The only problem I ever had it with is the actual pump that you're using to, say, if you put it in your ATO reservoir, that tends to really do some damage over, long term. It's not something that happens right away to the pump itself, the ATO pump, or if you have a special container that you're pumping a more concentrated solution from. So I just keep an eye on those pumps and stuff like that. But overall, there's not really any issues with any other equipment that I know of. Let's go and see what it says here. I noticed whenever I ask a question in your chat, I gain more subs soon after the YouTube algorithm is weird. Yeah, well, the YouTube algorithm doesn't really like me. So I've actually decided I have another YouTube account that I use to like watch stuff like that's not fish related. So my fish related stuff I'll watch on this account, the Fish of Hex one, and then I have a separate account that I use to watch other stuff, maybe like political or anything, any news or anything like that. Because I found when I was watching that stuff on this account that I was kind of getting put in the background a little bit. When I stopped doing that, things got better. I don't know if it's a coincidence or whatever. Sup, fucker. Love your videos. Hey, man. Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it. My cousin's name's Ryan. He's probably cooler than you, though. He don't start a sentence with sup, fucker. Moving down here. Travis, any idea on when Mobius is going? I don't know that one. I've heard about that. I tried setting up the my R4G Pros. I haven't used that program yet. I have no idea, man. I'll have to pass on that question. I have no idea. I haven't looked it up. Guys, you'll know if there's something that I don't know. Can't answer. I'm just going to tell you I don't know it, and we're going to move on. I did look up Vibrant, though. I did. I don't know a ton on it, but I feel somewhat confident about answering questions. I'm more confident if I can answer questions that I on stuff that I've actually had firsthand experience with. But if research, I could probably help you out. But if I don't know something, I'm just going to tell you, and we're going to move on. Let's see. Next question here. I'm setting up a new tank and want to pre-drill holes in the rock to place the acros and SPS. I don't know about that. How far do you think I should go? I wouldn't do that, man. I don't know what rock you're using, unless you're using like round boulders from a river, which there's no place to put any corals. I wouldn't bother drilling any holes. I don't know. Maybe are you trying to put the corals in while they're on frag plugs? Maybe that's your reasoning behind it. If I were you, I would just take the coral off the frag plug and put it on the rock with some super glue and call it a day. You don't want to be drilling holes because it's going to look weird. It's just not going to look natural. I just don't think you should do it. So I don't want to give you an answer. Just don't do it. This is the second part of his question. My yellow course has been missing for 3 weeks since I added it, cold tang and a yellow tang. Okay, so the tangs are probably being pretty aggressive towards the wrasse. So that's probably an indication that you have some stressful stuff going on in there. I would check it out at night with a flashlight. You'd be able to look underneath or in the corners of the rocks. You might be able to see his little tail or head peeking up if you have sand in there. Look around at night. You might be able to find the fish kind of maybe even out swimming around now that it can and it's not getting bullied by the other fish. Let's go to move down. Jordan, I have low nitrates and phosphates, and I dose a cal and alk from my dose connected with a trident. Okay. Should I dose manually trace elements? Which should I dose? And I don't really have to do water changes, or do I really have to do water changes? Okay. So when it comes to, if you have low nitrates and phosphates and you dose out. Okay. So you actually have it hooked up from your dosing is based off the trident, huh? I get a lot of questions about that. If I should do that, dosing based off what the trident says, I wouldn't do that. I would use the trident simply as a means of kind of knowing what your calcium and alkalinity and magnesium are, but I would still test either once a month or even sooner than that with a HANA checker just to verify that the unit's actually correct. I wouldn't dose anything based off of what the unit says. I think you need a little bit more redundancy than just relying on that. So I would actually just, I don't know, I would kind of nix on that personally. Just doesn't sound very safe to me. But when it comes to you have low nitrates and phosphates. Okay, so when it comes to doing trace elements, I use Refuel. Refuel has been something I've been using for 3-4 years now, something like that. 4 years, and I also use the Acro Power, which isn't a trace element, but it is kind of like a little bit of a food source. It's like basically sugar water to some extent. But I would dose some like Refuel or even Reef Plus. I used that in the past. I actually put that in my fish food, and it works pretty good. So another thing with that trident, I don't know, man. If you could give me a little bit more explanation, like, do you have like your dosing pump dosing, say your alkalinity dips a little bit on your trident, then it just starts putting alkalinity in the tank? You have it set up that way. I feel pretty weird about doing that, but to each his own, I suppose. Moving down here, I just started my Red Sea Reefer 170 and did a Red Sea program with cycling. The next day, the whole tank was white. No idea why, but it happened. And also my Nios 120 skimmer is over skimming. Is this normal? So it sounds like you got a bacteria bloom with the Red Sea cycling program. So yeah, you probably just have a bacteria bloom. It does take time. Turn the skimmer off, where you can just take the lid off the skimmer and wait for it to go away. That's what it sounds like. If it's all white, yeah, probably just a bacteria bloom. Wouldn't sweat it. Just let it go through its natural course. Don't do any water changes or anything. It'll go away in a few days, if not a week or so. Wouldn't worry about it. Glenn, thanks for the donation. I'm almost to your question because it sent me all the way down. What are we at? We're at I'm at 1916 and we're at 1929. So yeah, I have a 90-gallon Aqueon tank. Thinking of getting one of those gyro power heads. Still, will that work? Yeah, gyro will work. One of them for 90 gallons should be fine. I would put two because I'm a big flow fanatic, but I don't know if you're bare bottom or you're sand. Sand probably one to be fine. If you got bare bottom, get two. It's pretty cool to have the extra flow. But yeah, you should be good with that, man. Don't worry about it. Let's go here. This guy answered the question for you. This guy has two gyros and a 6 foot 125, and it works good. So there you go. Let's go to move down here. Alex. So somebody gave me a bunch of old used live rock that I want to recycle in a brute trash can. Do I need to use tap or RO water when mixing the salt? So for your first couple water changes using what is it? Our tap water is fine, but once you start getting past, like when you're starting to get rid of the ammonia and stuff like that, and you're just getting nitrates and phosphates, then switch over to RO water. Do that for a while. That way you have clean sources of water going in to it, as well as you're removing more by just putting in cleaner water. So yeah, you should be good. Thanks for that. Let me know how many. Okay, so I do see that. I see 11 now. So yeah, it's kind of weird though. Oh yeah, nobody likes it. That's cool, man. I ain't worried about it. If y'all don't like my free live stream, it's not fun. All right, so let's go move down here. Next question. Hey, Travis, I have a 700 liter. Oh, Jesus, don't make me get out the calculator to convert that shit to gallons. It just sounds big. That's what she said. Okay. With a reoccurring cyano, I dose nitrates 5 and PO4 is at 0.02. Ice cap, handouts checker, both confirms. Okay. All right. So if you haven't cyano, we shouldn't be having it at 0.02. I think didn't I talk to you? I'm pretty sure I talked to you on the community forum about this. Yeah. Yeah, you shouldn't have any cyano with 0.02. I mean, matter of fact, your phosphates are kind of low, but then again, if you have a ton of cyano, so a little bit here in the corners, like in my tank, I get a little bit in the corners, so that doesn't impact my overall PO4 level. But if you have a ton of it, say you have a whole layer of it or a whole rock is just covered in it, then if you have a lot of cyano, that means that cyanobacteria is using up the available phosphates in the water, which means that you're going to get a false reading on your PO4 test kit. So whatever you're doing, whatever nutrients you're adding to the tank, to the tank. So if you're dosing nitrates and phosphates, stop doing that. If you're feeding a lot, cut back on the food. If you're not doing water changes, start doing them, because it sounds like your phosphates are pretty high, but you're getting an inaccurate reading because the cyano is using it up. If you have a little bit of cyano, say in the overflow or again in the corner by a power head, that's not enough to really change the overall reading that you're getting. But if you have a ton of it, that's going to be a problem. So look into that, but you should be good to go. Kathy, thanks for this is beautiful tank. Thanks for sharing. All right, moving down here. Member, my yellow tang, I'm guessing, has a red vein like on her. Numbers are good. Checked the ammonia. It was at 0. What would cause this? Okay, that's H. Is that HLLE? I'm pretty sure what that diseases that tangs get that gets that red vein. I don't know a ton about it, but it could be water quality when you first, either during quarantine was stressful, you had an issue with that. Maybe you had a spike in ammonia when you added too many fish when you set up the tank. Something stressed it out and caused this issue. Now I don't know enough about it because I've never dealt with it to the extent that maybe it's been there for a couple months. You didn't say how long it's been there for, but I've had it pop up on the sail fin tank really early on when I set up the tank, and then it went away within a week or so without doing anything. I just made sure I had good water. He was pretty stressed out in quarantine because one of the other tanks was in there kind of beating him up a little bit, so it added to his stress, so that could have been part of the reason. I would say give it some time and check back with me, because I'm going to have to do more research on long-term solutions for that, since I've never had to actually do one. So hit me back up either next week with how long it's been in there, or you can kind of give me more information as we go through the comments here. All right, let's go down, move down here. Ryan's Reef. Okay, some of my acro frags won't grow. Others are thriving. What do you recommend to get them to get going? Okay, so when you mean not growing, are they been in the tank for like 6 months and you have nothing growing and they still look like stubs? They're not encrusting. If some are growing, this is the way I look at a reef tank. If the tank is happy and you have majority of the corals, like for right now, the reef tank that I have here, the 300, 99% of the corals are happy, for the exception of one. That fish effects millie at the top middle rock structure is just getting blasted. It hates all the light that it's getting, and it's getting its ass kicked, and it's slowly dying. Now, I want to make changes to the tank. I want to change the lighting to cut down on how much it's getting, so maybe it will get better. I want to cut more corals and move things out of there, hopefully to save it. But by doing so, I'm going to cause more stress and unnecessary stress to the other corals, potentially causing more problems. So the way that I look at a reef tank is if you have, more than 80% of your corals are happy and they're growing and they're thriving, don't make any changes to just make, 20% of the corals work and grow. What you can do is you can actually relocate some of those frags. Maybe they need more light. What type of corals are they? Maybe they're in a shaded spot. Maybe they're not getting good enough flow. Again, not enough light. nutrients aren't where they should be, I would say give them some more time. If they don't start growing, relocate them somewhere else. Naturally, I'll tell you some of these acros that I have in here, I wish I can show you guys on the screen, but there's a couple that have been in there just as long as some of the major colonies, like the WWC, one of the biggest colonies in this tank. I have acros now that are wild imported corals that are only about 3 or 4 inches, and they've been in there just as long as that WWC and haven't grown at all. They have good light, they good flow, but they just don't grow. So some corals won't grow because either they've been out in the wild where they have really good environment where they do thrive, and they come into our tanks where they're just not, not a good spot. So I wouldn't make any changes. If more than half the tank is happy, just let it be what it is, and you can move the corals around later. Hopefully that answers your question, man. All right, moving on to Anthony. How can I get my Jaybo to tumble? Mine doesn't move, and it grows slow because I have to turn it every other day. Okay, so I don't move. I don't think Jaybo needs to tumble. Never had it tumble ever in any of my tanks, mainly because it got too big and it couldn't tumble. But never had it ever do it, and it grew fast. I think if it's not growing, you don't have enough nutrients in the tank that it can use up to grow. If you want it to start tumbling, you can put a power head in there, MaxiJet, little, I don't know, any kind of pump that you want. Just understand that the Jaybo's probably going to get clogged in the pump and you're going to have to clean it. It's probably not worth it. So I would just leave it alone and let it do its own thing. Next question, hyposalinity versus copper. It depends on the fish. For me, if I have fish like a hippotanga, which is pretty sensitive to copper, I would do hyposalinity over that copper method. Just again, it depends on the fish. They both work, and sometimes I've done both. I will admit that if I have any worry whatsoever that it might not be completely healthy, I will put it through either a hypo treatment or a copper, whatever one I didn't use previously. That way the fish is not sitting in copper for a month. It can just do 2 weeks of a copper and then 2 or 3 weeks of hypo to kind of balance it out instead of just straight copper or straight hypo. So I like them both. It just depends on the fish. The more sensitive, I'd probably go towards hyposalinity. Hey, if you're coming in, hit the thumbs up button here. Let me switch this damn banner around since it's pretty dumb. Let me move this here. Let's see. We are at 7 minutes. 19:21 is where I'm at. It's cool, though. All right, moving down here. Hey, your lights are at 100% across all the colors, question mark. And the overall power bar is at what percentage? Thanks, brother. USA. Okay. They are at 100% when it comes to blue, violets, purples, and those are at 100%. And the actual color bar, the intensity bar, is at 100%. I don't think I have that on the Apex. I'll have to check and see. I don't know. But when it comes to greens and reds, those are at 15%, pretty sure. And the whites and cool whites are at 35%. So it's my version of the AB plus spectrum, and works pretty good. So those are what I would keep it at. If you do have that intensity bar, you will obviously have to change that depending on how big your tank is and all that stuff. You don't want to run them at full 100% if the light's really powerful. Let's go to move down here. Robin, I'm dosing 30 milliliters of nitrates. Can I just add 30 fish to bring? Can I just add 30 fish to bring my nitrates up without dosing? How do you feel about that? I don't like. Okay, so you can add all the fish you want. You could feed the fish. Those are two very expensive methods to bring in your nitrates up. It's what, I don't know how much 30 fish are going to be. I'm assuming you're going to buy probably cheap fish if you're going to buy 30 of them. So you're going to lay all the money on that. Then you have all the money you're going to spend on food to get the nutrients up. Or you can just go to my website and buy it for like $7. And the shit will last you for a long time. It doesn't take, it don't use a ton of it. The 300 uses what, I think I'm at 16 milliliters a day of 500 gallons of water, and I sell a 350 milliliter bottle for like $8. So do the math. If you want to spend the money, you can, but I would just dose it because you can also control how much you're dosing and how consistent it is. For me, I know where I have my levels are dosing, and if say I test my tank, like I tested today, my nitrates are at 2, my phosphates are at 0.07. So my nitrates are a little low. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bump up the auto dose by another milliliter or 2, and then come back in a few days and see where it's at. I adjust it based off of kind of where the tank is when I test. And that's something you can't do when you're feeding and adding a bunch of fish is, if you put 30 fish in there, that's a lot of mouths to feed, and that's a lot of fish shit, which you might not be able to control and could become a problem later on. All right, moving down here. Ryan, I have a 4-month-old mixed reef 36-gallon bow, and my Midas Blenny is aggressive towards my clowns. What can I do to lower the aggression? Eat them. Next question. I'm just kidding. You can't really do anything, man. Fish are fish. Fish are friends and fish are assholes. But you can eat them if you want. Hey, what's up? Just put salt and pepper on it and probably broil them because you don't want to eat fucking, I wouldn't grill them. Probably wouldn't be good with charcoal. Moving down. Oh, I can hear it now. It's going to be all over fucking Reef to Reef. Fish Hicks told me to eat my blenny, and I did, and I got sick. So, disclaimer here, don't eat your fish. I said it. Now you guys can't fucking say that. I'm going to get in trouble for that. Moving down. Only if you have super low. Okay, so this is answering. Thanks for answering questions, guys. Appreciate you answering each other's questions because I can't keep up. Thank you. Okay, here we go. Reggie. Reggie rewrote his question. Appreciate it, man. Can flow be too strong on a rimless seams, downsizing tanks, and I have flow for a 200 SPS going down to 80 on? No. I mean, they build these tanks. I mean, unless it's a really old rimless tank, which you're probably not going to find anyways. I don't think it's going to be a problem. Only thing you have an issue with is it might splash out of the tank. I would, maybe downsize a little bit. Make it. I mean, you can turn the overall intensity down. Only thing you're gonna have a problem with is splashing water out of the tank, and that's what I do with the 300 when I actually had all my damn power heads working. Speaking of power heads, posted, man, my freaking Jaybo, which is what 5, maybe 6 months old max, in the 40-gallon shallow reef, just took a shit, so I wasn't happy about that. Not at all. Moving down here. If my mouse will work, maybe not. There we go. Okay. Hey, what's up, Travis? What's the cheapest way to lower phosphates without a protein skimmer and using a canister filter as a sump? Water changes, control your feeding, and phosphates. You could use GFO or what is that other shit? Oh my God, it's freaking blank in my brain. There's another one out there. It's not as so intense. Somebody can remember it, put it in the comment section. Oh, I remember it once we're done talking here. But you can use GFO media. Just be careful on how much you put in there because you could strip the tank pretty quick and run into other issues. And kudos on the canister filter. If you have any like floss or anything in there, remove it. Only put rock or just use it, or at least clean it really often because they become pretty dirty relatively quickly. Here you go. Man, Glenn, I'm just getting to you, buddy. Sorry. All right, moving down. Does Vibrant inhibit coralline algae growth? I have no clue. I don't see why it would. It's just bacteria low in your nutrients. I don't think it would have an issue with your coralline since that's really going to be based off how stable your alkalinity is. I'm assuming if you're going to be bouncing around with a lot of nutrients, like, if you're going from really high to low, of course, you're not going to get much growth even on corals with that kind of transition. So I don't think it's going to be a problem. Vibrant is dinos in a bottle. I can see it becoming a problem. I feel like a lot of people that are telling me or asking me about Vibrant are having dinos because they're dosing this stuff. They're getting to super low nutrients, and then dino comes about in really low nutrients, which sucks. How far in we are here? We're about 40 minutes already. Damn, this shit went by quick. All right, moving down here. Glenn, finally got you, buddy. Sorry about that. Quarantine question. It's freaking confusing to know what medicine to use for what fish. Can you break this down? Is there a size fits all? Okay, so my general treatment for fish is always cupramine. That really is a broad spectrum, takes care of anything external. If you get a fish in, you can always do a freshwater dip for like flukes and shit like that to get them out. But cupramine is really a broad spectrum. If you have internal stuff, I like to use probiotics. I have a video on that. I don't remember the name of it. Don't hate me on it. I don't remember what it's called. And then the medication I talked about last week. I have some on my shelf that I cannot see from here. But I use an internal medicine. If the stomach is really sunk in, if they have the white stringy turds, if that's what you want to call it. Yeah, I guess it's turd. Internal medication will take care of that. Don't remember the name of it, buddy. Sorry. But usually cupramine takes care of 99% of the problems every single time. And then, of course, feeding them regularly with good food, using probiotics, making sure the food is healthy. Even have a little bit of garlic extract to encourage them to eat is always a good thing because if they're getting food in their stomach, that means they're processing nutrients that can fight off infections and get through the process. Glenn, I hope that answers your question. Actually, Glenn, hit me up on the community forum, or you can send me an email. Let me put up my thing here. Send me an email so I can get back to you with the internal medication per name so I can get that info for you. All right, Glenn. So just hit me up a little bit. You do it now or after the stream, whatever works for you. What trace elements should I dose? I dose Cal and Elk on an automatic dose connected to M. I'm not sure what M means, but I like to use Refuel. I use that seems to be it covers a lot of trace elements, pretty much all of them. And I use Reef Plus. I like Refuel a little bit more because it has the monosaturated fatty acids. But yeah, Refuel seems to work pretty well for me. Just don't overdose it or you're going to have algae problems. 0 to real quick. Oh, shit. I just scrolled all the way down, man. Give me a second. I love this program because it makes things super easy and things organized and just nice and pretty. But, man, does it suck when it comes to getting comments without going all the way down. Okay. Let's go ahead and check out this question. This is a member. I remember the name because I had to put the 3.8 on there because I forgot during the scrolling credits. So I apologize for that. All right. Hey, Travis, any plan to make a video on how to change the plug on a frag? Yes, I'm going to make that video this week. I'm writing that shit down. Actually, I have it on my list now. Yeah, so I remember you mentioning in one of your videos to change the plug, but not sure how to do it in the fear of damaging the coral. Okay, so it's very simple, Glenn. You're going to want to cut off the coral. I have a bandsaw or a diamond saw. Obviously, not everybody has that, but you can use bone cutters. Just instead of when you go to cut the plug or the acro, don't cut it directly through with all pressure. Put a little bit of pressure and then do a slight twist to break it. That way, if you ever try to cut a coral that maybe is not as thick as a main branch and you go to cut directly through it, you might shatter it into a bunch of pieces. So put a little bit of pressure where you want it to break and just do a slight twist and it will snap off there and hopefully not break off anything in your or the rest of your frag. I mean, I learned that the hard way in the 300 trying to break off some of that fire digi in the front there. Just want to cut through and then shatter it off a huge chunk of it. It was a big mess. So just do a little pressure and a twist and it will break off. And I will have that video out. I will. I have it here. I'm going to do it. I promise. Moving down. Hopefully. Okay. Travis, I can't afford a quarantine tank at the moment. Would it be okay just to buy coral dipping? Just to buy coral dip? You can. I mean, you guys, listen, I just provide advice to you guys. You can do whatever you want to do. I mean, it's up to you. It's your risk versus reward. If it was me, I would not put a coral in my current system without quarantining it. If I was setting up some Joe Schmo, like maybe I was setting up a 32 biocube in here and I just want to put random corals in it, I probably wouldn't quarantine because maybe it's not something that I truly care about for long-term success. But if you're setting up a system that is truly something you want to keep up for years and you want to be successful, you should quarantine them, regardless of where you get them from. And that's just because I learned the hard way, and I prefer that you guys didn't. But it is just advice. So yeah. Dipping's good. I provide dip in my coral orders. If that makes you feel any better. Moving down. My tea's getting cold. It's all right. Okay, they're answering questions. Notice no Mike in the chat this week. Yeah, you'll have that. He's probably here. He's a fucking lurker. Right, Mike? Text me if you're lurking. And we'll see. All right, let's go down, move down. Okay, moving down. Okay, I currently have 0 phosphates and 2 nitrates, no corals yet. Tank is about 5 months old. Do I need to worry about anything as I'm still fighting cyano and using Vibrant? Okay, so if your tank is 5 months old and you're already using products like Vibrant, that just seems like you just off to a bad start. I would, if it was my tank, I don't know if this is the 700 liter one. I get the questions confused, so forgive me on that. I would stop using Vibrant. I would stop adding any chemicals to the tank. I would stop feeding a ton of food, increase your water changes, and just let the tank naturally go. Add a refugium, make sure your skimmer's big enough, you're skimming wet, make sure you're just taking care of all your nutrient export. And if your tank is 5 months old and you're relying on a bacteria supplement like Vibrant to keep it stable and to keep it going, you're just off to a really bad start. And I just don't, I mean, you could turn it around and be successful. I'm squeaking my chair here. I got to get a new chair someday. I have to stay super still when I'm recording voiceovers because it's like squeak, squeak, fucking squeak. But yeah, I mean, not sugarcoating it here, man. But using products 5 months old like that to kind of get your tank under control, you're just off to a bad start. And I think you should reconsider your foundational methods, water changes, nutrient export before diving in. It will correct itself over time. If you make good decisions now, it will correct itself. You just got to do it. Because that's I'd hate to see you. I hate to just see you spending all this money, and I know you're obviously, you ask a lot of questions, so you're trying to be successful and you're trying to do the right things, and that's just my 2 cents. And, take it for whatever it's worth. Let's move down. Hey Reggie, hey, thanks for the donation, Reggie. I appreciate it. And I wasn't trying to be an asshole, by the way, by asking you to rewrite the question. I just didn't understand what you're saying, and I didn't want to try to put words in your mouth. Okay. Oh, hey, I got a lighting question for you. Tom, where the fuck's the question? That was your opportunity. Now we're at 19:30. We are, 20 minutes behind on questions, and that's where you put your question. Now, Tom, I'll see you in 20 minutes. Possibly. Moving down. Lou, I can't grow Jaybo at all. Have a good light. Dose iron, nitrates at 20 or 20. Phosphates at 0. What? 1. Damn, son. That must be parts per billion. That can't be. Okay. All I grow is green, nasty stuff on the glass. Any tips, please? Your nitrates are super freaking high. What light are you using? When you say you have a good light, what's your definition of good? I mean, is it enough par? Is it bright enough light? How big is your refugium? All things to take in consideration. If your nutrients are that high and you have a really good light, your Jaybo should be growing off the chains, man. So I would maybe let me know in the comment section what light you're using, Lou, and maybe I can help you out a little bit more. Tom, there's a question, Tom. There you go. Tricky bastard. You trying to give me a heads up. Tom, I have a 65-gallon mixed reef. Currently have black box LEDs on the tank. Looking to upgrade. Was wondering what you think the Prime HE lights or the Zerlite UFOs. Okay, the Z-Life. Okay, so I've used the UFO, the Z-Lives or Z-Lights or Zerlite. I don't know if they changed the name of the company, but it's okay. It doesn't have a lot of parts. Good for frag swaps. Wouldn't use it for a main display. When it comes to the Prime HE, that must be the new light because I use the Prime HD. Could be a typo, but the primes, I have those on the 40-gallon shallow reef. I've used them over the anemone tank, which had acros in it. I've used that light on a lot of small tanks. The primes are good. They're a good light. My favorite light is the Radion. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Black boxes work, but they don't work as good as Radions. And I've had successful tanks with both lights, and there is no comparison. So in the reality of lighting, you do get what you pay for, even though sometimes the lights are a little pricey, but that's okay. They make up for it when you sell the coral later on, when your tank is stuffed to the glass and you could sell off those frags. It's well worth the extra price. Glad I got your question, Tom. I don't know why I didn't see it, though. Moving down here. Okay. Best calcium and alk test. I hope I didn't just scream in the mic there. I just had to move it, so hopefully that wasn't too loud for you guys. Best calcium test kit. Okay. I like to use the Red Sea for my calcium. A lot of people use Hannah. Never used it before, but Red Sea has always been pretty reliable. I don't test calcium very often. I guess if I tested it as often and found it to be as useful as my alkalinity test, I'd probably go to Hannah. And there's your question answered for your alkalinity. Hannah. Every single time. Moving down. What's good, Phil? I don't know, Phil. All right, moving down here. Again, I appreciate you guys answering each other's questions, making life easy here. Yeah. What's this bullshit? 117 watching? I mean, there's more than that now. 174. 13 likes. That's all I see on my end. I don't know what there really is. My other screen says 8. Who fuck knows? You should probably hit the thumbs up since you're here. All right, so let me go ahead and switch that around to remind you. Moving down here. What supplements or amino acids do you currently use? Refuel, Acropower, dose iron, phytoplankton, and that's it. Moving down. Skimmer recommendations on a 57 deep blue with a trigger 34 sump. I like, if you have money, get Nios. Okay, hands down. If you have the money, you want to spend it, get Nios. Greatest skimmer ever used was a Nios Quantum 300. Haven't cleaned it in 2 years. I think it's rocking the tits off, man. I love that skimmer. But if you're on a budget, go with Bubble Magus. Magnus, however you want to pronounce it. I like them as well. Curve 7 would be a little overkill, but you could always dial it down. Curve 5 would work just as well. I did have a Curve 9 Plus on the imported system, which I just sold to a local guy, and that thing was rocking, man. That was nuts. Really love that skimmer. All right, here we go. Had a bad batch of salt mining at, I guess, I don't know what you mean by that. Salt at 5.1 elk. Been using for 3 years, so I didn't think to check parameters before water change. Lost 8-inch Vitas 5 days before. Okay. Yeah, man, that's a horrible luck. You got 5.5 elk on a batch of salt, man. I don't even want to know it. That's pretty shitty. I don't know if you were asking me. It wasn't a question. I was just reading it because it seemed like a pretty shitty thing. All right, let's go down here. I'm finally getting down to these questions. Okay, what is your survival rate for quarantining fish? I have worse luck quarantining wrasses. About 60%, depending on where I get them from. If I get them directly imported in, like basically they go to one hub when they get to the United States and then they come to me, I have a higher success rate. But if I get them at a local fish store, it's already bounced at a few hubs and a few different destinations, and it tends to be a lower success rate. Wrasses are a huge pain in the ass to get through quarantine. Putting a bowl of sand in there helps with the stress, so consider doing that. That might help you with your wrasses. Let's go move down. We need a good club here, man. The MLS hasn't responded. Okay, I don't know who the hell you're talking to. Okay. On some more questions. Where is Mike Lemming? I don't know where Mike Lemming is. He didn't text me yet, did he? Nope. I'm being told to go faster via text message. I'm trying. I just don't want to. If I go too fast, then it sounds like I'm skipping through the questions and I'm not giving good answers, and I feel like it's just not a nice thing to do. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know what to say about that. All right, let's go down then. I'm going to scroll through some of these. Okay, Travis, what is your opinion on the black box lights sold under various brands on Amazon? I have a Fluval Marine 2.0, which just does not have enough blue lights. If you're on a budget, the black box LEDs are fine. Just be careful. They use up. I mean, the electricity consumption is a little bit higher than some of the higher end lights, and the heating. Make sure the fans don't die, and you check those. Keep the dust out of them. Keep them clean, and you won't really have any issues. The LEDs tend to burn out a little bit quicker depending on what brand. There's a whole bunch of the Mars. Is it Mars Aqua or Aqua Mars? Those ones I was pretty successful with. They last longer than some of the other generic brand black box LEDs. So consider doing that. They're relatively cheap. I think they're like $80 a light or some shit like that. All right. Note to self: no cooking fish, no matter what. Got it. Update. Here we go. Update on the Blenny. Okay, just cooked it. Oh, motherfucker. Why are you trolling me, guys? Ryan. Well, good luck, man. Good luck with that clownfish or the Blenny for dinner. Let's see here. Yeah, with you guys answering questions for each other, that means I can skip over them, and I appreciate that. Kind of. Okay, how do you maintain your salinity while shipping out so many frags? I have a 30-gallon white container that's sitting right next to the grow out system, and that's full of mixing heated salt water at 1.026. And basically, I just turn off my ATO when I'm shipping out coral, and when I'm all done for the day or the night, I'll just go ahead and turn on or open up the valve for that water and just fill it up, and that's it. And then turn the ATO back on once I'm done shipping, and it's back to its normal range. But other than that, yeah, you have to be kind of careful depending on how many go out. Early on, I didn't really pay attention to it, and I was having some serious salinity dips, and it was just becoming a problem. So I just keep salt water around, and I dump it into the tank when I'm done shipping. All right, moving down here. Any negative effects on dosing a 3-day blackout once every 3 months in my frag tank? Why would you be doing a 3-day blackout once every 3 months in your frag tank? My question to you is, what is the purpose of that? Are you trying to fight algae? I mean, I don't know. Are you just sick of having the lights on? Trying to save electric bill? You don't like your tank? I don't know. I don't see why you should do it. Need more information. Moving down here. Yeah, okay. Do you still use SP Reef lights? What is your opinion on them? I do not use them. I have no opinion. Moving down. Best budget Refugium lights. The 5K Home Depot bulbs are awesome. I used to had 4 of those over the Refugium for the grow out system, or not grow system, for the imported system that I just recently took down. And that was on a 40-gallon Refugium, and that thing was rocking. They're really cheap. I think you get 2 of those bulbs, 100 watts, for $9. Pretty sure. Pretty awesome light, and they're really cheap. And then you can get the other parts there as well. I have a couple videos on how to make a Refugium light in the beginner guide, or in one of my DIY playlists, one of those 2 playlists, and you can see how to make it. Pretty simple. Some bitch scroll all the way down. How many Prime HD 16s would you suggest on a 65-gallon? It has a cross brace and a top and tank. Shit. I mean, if you turn them 4, if you turn them, depending, you can't. I mean, you can have too much light. You definitely want to kind of get around that shading of the crossbeam. That stuff always bothered me. That's why I put my lights in sections. So when the light comes together, when it gets into the water, it kind of gets rid of the shading. Plus, having T5s really helps with the shading. That just is an awesome thing. Yeah, I think, as long as you rotate them, you should be good with that. And if, you can do 1 light, depending on what you're growing in the tank. All right, going down. I plan to upgrade my 46-gallon to a 180-gallon now, since I'm having the issues with the cyano. If I stop Vibrant when the new tank arrives, would you recommend using the rock from the current tank? Well, you're going from a 46 to a 180, so how much rock could you possibly have in a 46? I mean, yeah, you could use the same rock. I would at least put the rock that you're going to supplement with the current rock. Make sure that stuff is cycled ahead of time, so you have good beneficial bacteria ready to go. Make sure that stuff is ready to be put into a tank and is going to process nutrients efficiently. I wouldn't just put the 46 gallons worth of rock in there and then put a bunch of dry rock to fill up the space, because you're just going to run into issues. There's still not enough bacteria to process the nutrients. So you can go bigger all day long, but if you don't build the foundation of making the good decisions with cycling and make sure the tank is stable, you're going to run into the same issues over again, regardless how big your tank is. So, okay, there's a second part to this. And what would be the best method to move over to the 46 to 180? Are they in the same room? I mean, basically just drain the tank, put the rock over, fill it back up, make sure you have enough water on standby to finish topping off the 180. When it comes to the fish, again, you could put them in. I would get a separate tank, maybe get a brute trash can with a heater, power head, something like that. Keep them in there from some of the water from the 46. Make sure the 180 is stable and temperature stable and everything's good with that before putting the fish in. It shouldn't take too long, as long as you have some water on standby. All right, moving down here. Okay. Hey, bud, how did you make out at the doctor's the other day? Okay, well, it's pretty good. It's just therapy. I go to therapy once every 2 weeks right now. It was every week, but now it's every 2 weeks because of my schedule. It's pretty good. Life's full of therapy. That's what that was. Moving down. Oh man, I thought that was Mike because of the I saw the coral on the small icon. I'm like, oh, he's here. How are you liking the 360Xs compared to the XR15s? Well, the 360Xs and the XR15s have no comparison. The 360Xs do the job. I have 2 of them over that 40-gallon or 50-gallon, frag tank, the low boy, and they keep the corals happy. That's my healing tank. So I cut everything from the other systems. They go in there, they heal. Pictures are taken in that tank, and then they're sold out of that tank in the WYSIWYG section. They do the job. I have no problems with it. But when it comes to overall growth and power and intensity, the XR15s will blow it out of the water every single time. I know that Kessel doesn't really go based on par. They go off of overall spectrum is what they boast being what they're proud of. But you can actually see the video right there with the 2 360Xs on there. But they do a great job. The coloration of the acros, everything you see on the website is all based off of course, they've grown in other tanks, but the overall final coloration is coming from those lights, so they do the job. And it is a pretty big spread for those 2 lights on that one tank. So I'm pretty happy with them. I just wouldn't use them as my main lighting. Like I wouldn't put them over the 300. Simply just would not do that. You can't really beat the XR15s. You just with T5 combination, there's just nothing better that I've ever used. I mean, I'm getting 250 par at the bottom of a 30-inch tank with 2 lights. Pretty nuts, man. So moving down here. Thanks, Travis. Can someone spell it out for me, please? Did not catch it. I missed that. At least it's not sending me all the way down. Okay, so right now we have I'm almost caught up. Pretty close to being caught up. There's a little bit of a delay, but we are getting through here. Sweet. Happy. I did skip a few because you guys were answering questions for each other, so hopefully that doesn't bite me in the ass later, but it worked out so far. Brandon, what is the best fish to be introduced after a cycle of the tank? It's been 2 weeks and all my parameters are in check. Your tank is probably not cycled after 2 weeks unless you had live rock. But clownfish are a very hardy fish. Chromis, like that big fat shit in the video right now. Yeah, chromis, clownfish, they're all pretty much the same species, damsel family. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're looking for a hardy fish. I wouldn't be throwing any $200 tangs in there quite yet. So, yeah, a couple clowns, some chromis. Don't go overboard on the chromis because you regret that later on when they get bigger and start killing each other. That is the last chromis, that one you saw in the video. That is the only one out of 12 that's left in this tank. You might be able to see the second one in here because I haven't updated this video yet. This is a little bit an older video. But, yeah, he got smoked the other day. Circle of life. What are your thoughts on Red Sea trace colors? I actually did it on the 125. I had it auto dosing off of the Jaybo doser. It looks like my screen's flickering. But yeah, the trace elements from Red Sea are pretty good. I had no problems with it on the 125. The reason why I don't use it in the 300 is I just don't feel like spending that much money. I think it's pretty pricey, and I like refuel. I've been successful with that stuff. But yeah, if you got a smaller tank and you don't mind spending the money, it does the job. Next one, had an outbreak of ick in my display. It only had 20. I only had 20 corals in there and very little inverts. I decided to take all of my corals instead off my fish because I had a triple amount of fish in the coral. Okay, I had an outbreak of ick in my display. I only had 20 corals in there and very little inverts. I decided to take all my corals instead of my fish because I have triple amount of fish to coral. Right. I don't know what you mean. I don't think it's a question. My fucking head hurts from reading that. Oh, there's a part 2. Okay, here we go. Decided then to use cupramine in my display to treat the ick so far. The ick has gone. It's been 18 days since I dosed the cupramine. I haven't seen any ick since day 4 of the cupramine. Yeah, I don't think that was a good idea. Do you plan on putting coral back in the tank? I just don't think that's a good idea. I think putting any kind of copper treatment in a display tank is just bad juju. And this is one of those things you can, if you make good decisions early on, like quarantine your fish, you can avoid all this nonsense, all this bullshit would never even be on the table. You wouldn't have that problem. And now you got to decide, if you're going to use this tank for soft corals, cool, but you start throwing some SPS in there, you might have a problem with the copper being in the silicone, because it absorbs into the silicone. So yeah, it sucks. I wish you would let you guys put more into one comment because I had to skip down a little bit to actually get to that second part. So I didn't like that. Moving down here. How do you feel about live bacteria in a bottle? I'm on the fence about it. I think do it more naturally. Bacteria is cool. If you're trying to set up a quarantine tank last minute, it's cool. It works because you're already doing water changes in there. But if you're looking to set up a tank long-term success, I would do it the old-fashioned way. Throw a piece of shrimp in a mesh bag or cure your rock for a couple months before you even put it in the tank. Problem will be solved. But to each his own. If you want to use it, you can use it. Not a fan, and I would not use it on my own tank. All right, okay. This is the third part to that question. Should I start to remove the copper now that I'm let go past 30 days? Okay. You can put carbon in there and try to remove it, but it's never going to be completely gone. It's just not going to happen. Okay. Thanks for the support, Rick. Appreciate that. All right, moving down here. All right. Treat my tank for dino with bacteria dosing and light hour reduction. It reduces a lot now. Okay. It reduces a lot and now running a UV also. But for 2 days, saw some of it on the sand, but it's not on the rock. Any solution now? Manual removal is your best bet. With dino, again, there's a couple different types of it, but with the bacteria, what are you using for bacteria to actually remove it? Is there a special one that you got going on there? Put that in the comment section so I can see what you're using. But manual removal is your best bet. UV sterilizer is awesome for dino, and it seems like, man, it's crazy how much dino has popped up in my comment section lately and in these streams. Like, everybody's getting dino. Who the fuck is causing all the dino in the hobby? Jesus, it's everywhere. God, it's not in my tank anymore. Moving on. Okay, slow growing macroalgae in display tank. Thoughts, advice? Like, what kind of macroalgae? Do you have Chlorpa in there? Because that shit will take over real quick. Do you have Jaybo that might have got out of the Refugium and stuck to the rock and growing? Do you have like specialty macroalgae that you're growing in there? I'm not a fan of macroalgae in my main display tank, but everybody has things that they like differently. So if you like macroalgae in your tank, do it up, man. Shit, man, it's already 11 after 8. This goes by real quick. All right, moving down. Okay, here's the second part of that question to answer it. 3-day blackouts, because every time I do a blackout, all my zoas are free of any algae and looking great. I've been getting reoccurring dinoflagellates okay for bryopsis. Bryopsis can be taken care of with higher magnesium levels. I'm pretty sure that's what the one that we've cured before with magnesium. Dino, you just make sure your nutrients are up and you won't have an issue with that. And what I used to do for my zoas back when I was importing them, blue-legged hermit crabs do an awesome job at keeping your zoas nice and clean. And blue-legged hermit crabs take care of a lot of stuff. Now, they're not going to be where you're using them to. If you got waves of long-ass green hair algae, obviously you got some nutrient issues you got to address, and a cleanup crew is not going to take care of that. But if you're looking just to kind of keep your zoas relatively clean, the plugs clean, blue-legged hermit crabs are awesome. They do a great job on that. Some not so big turbo snails, like I have like some massive baseball size Mexican turbo snails in the 300 that really do an awesome job. But you can get the small ones and they'll do a good job as well. I have those in the grow out systems and they take care of the glass for me pretty good, and any of the frag discs. So yeah, I mean, you can do the blackout if you want, if it's something you're doing and it works out for you. But I think you should address some of the underlying issues, like why you have this excess nutrients, why you have dino, and why you have bryopsis. If you can address those issues, you can avoid the 3-day blackout altogether. I'm waiting for my mouse to work. I'm trying to get to the next question. Oh, it's not letting me click. Motherfucker. There we go. Are you a fan of mollies in a reef tank? Yes. I've had them in the 125. I've had them in multiple frag tanks. I like mollies. When you get them in, you have to acclimate them pretty slow. I like to do it over a few days, not just plop them in the salt water because it pisses them off and really can stress them out. Some people get away with it, not me. And yeah, they're awesome. They're really good if they clean up algae. They really are just scavenger, picking at everything types of fish. They just don't live long from my experience. And it could just be me. It could be the aggression that I have from some of these other fish like the tangs. They tend to be a little bit more aggressive towards the mollies. And again, that could just be me. So that might be why they're not living as long in my system, but they're pretty cool. And you get a lot of different colors and they really add a lot. I like the Dalmatian molly. It's one of my favorites. Dalmatian is one of my favorite dogs. And it's a pretty cool fish. So yeah, I like them, as you can tell. Hey, new to reef keeping, what are some mushroom corals that would be good for first-time corals and corals in general? Okay. Well, any mushroom, depending on your price. I mean, they got some that are like $1,000. So preferably get some that are relatively cheap that grow pretty quickly. So the red mushroom, it can be invasive. The red, I don't remember. I just call it the red mushroom because it's a red one and it grows like a freaking weed. But if you want something that's going to grow really quickly, the red one is good. And in general, if you want corals that are easy, that grow fast, pulsing xenia is pretty cool. I like to keep it isolated on its own rock. It will release and sometimes spread over the tank, and it can be a little bit invasive. But I think as a beginner, a lot of us like to have these types of corals that grow quickly, have a lot of movement, a lot of coloration. That's just something that we do and we deal with and we like early on, and then eventually you upgrade to things that don't, don't necessarily do that. So another thing, any Zoa would be good. Again, prices range from $500 down to $5 frags. Zoas were a really, really good seller for me. One of my top sellers before I stopped importing coral. Kind of bummed about it, but I am getting Zoas in that I'm going through quarantine, so I will have Zoas eventually. But there'll be higher end Zoas, of course, and they take a long time to grow out, unfortunately. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question, Nick. I want to see you do a cannonball in your next display tank for Yad Rock. Okay, well, I'll make a deal with you. If you send me the money to justify any damage that I do to that tank, then I will be more than happy to do a cannonball. Deal? I'll let you know. It's going to be about $27,000. I'll need you to PayPal that to me, and we'll talk about it. Moving down. Hey, Travis, how's it going? It is going. Things are moving pretty. I'm a little bit slower today. I'm a little bit slower during this live stream. I told myself I was going to not rush through the questions as much and hopefully keep up with everything. Kind of enjoy the process, drink my cold ass tea now. And yeah, everything's pretty good. Thanks for asking. If you guys are coming in, make sure you hit the like button. You guys can check out the website. I just added some cool frags there. Pretty sweet. Moving down. Hey, Scott's here. Scott. Hey, sorry I'm late. You're always fucking late, Scott. I know we're even friends. Moving down. Okay. Aquatics. What are your thoughts on mollies and Fowler Tank? Didn't I just answer this? Some bitch. Didn't I just answer this? Moving down. Okay. All right, John. Hey, Travis, picked up some of your NO3 and PO4, raised my PO4 to 0.3209 after one dose. Is that too much or too fast? Trying to color up Monty's, and my Panopy looks awesome, by the way. Okay. No, I mean, it's not a big deal. You didn't really need much to increase it. That's fine. Just be careful. When you dose again, maybe not dose as much. And then, just keep an eye on your nutrients. And like I said before, it's going to plateau a little bit. And then you're going to have to back down the dose, at least your daily or weekly dose. But the goal of dosing is just to keep it consistent. So as long as you're between that 0.07 to 0.15, as long as you're in that range somewhere, you're good. You don't have to worry about it. You're good on that. It's just going to be if you go up to like fucking, 1.5 million ppm, some crazy number. You don't want to be up too high. So, moving down. Okay. Also, the problem came from low nutrients, NO3 and P4, trying to bump it up. Yeah. So you got Dino because your nutrients are too low. That's very common. Yeah. Once you bump it up, that usually takes care of Dino with manual removal. So, stable nutrients that are not zero and manual removal plus a UV sterilizer, Dino usually doesn't have a chance. Whereas going down here. Okay. Travis. Do you know if there is a specific aquarium cabinet I can order to organize all my messy cords and put the power ships in? Okay. Marine Depot, I actually gave one away on a giveaway. I don't remember what subscriber count it was. I haven't done one in forever. But they have a board that you can put all your stuff in. Like you can use an Apex, you can put your power ships in it, and it puts all those cables back through the holes and it hides behind the board. It's pretty sweet. Don't remember the name of it, but it is on marinedepot.com, and it's pretty awesome. I would use it, but I just can't get myself to even go over and organize those cords. So, or you can just do what I did and just get a 2x4 or a piece of plywood, attach it to something, and get like zip ties with a little nail hole in it, and you can just zip tie all your shit there and your power strips and make it look somewhat organized, even though it's not. All right, moving down. Travis, what would you say is the optimal temperature of a reef tank? I like 79. I would, 79. I was going to go off on a tangent there. We got too much time left in the stream, and I ain't trying to go off on anything because it's not going to be good. So, 79 degrees is pretty good for me. Technically, I use 78.7 to 79.3. That is my fluctuation on the Apex. And what I found is with the extra 2 tanks on here, my water temperature is super stable because now I can keep the lid closed for the 300. I have the 40 that's open to the air. I have the grow out tank, and I have 2 low boys that are open to the air. And the temperature is just super stable now that I have that more open air and water volume. So, no more 80-degree temperatures for me. But then again, that, it is fall, winter. So it's cold outside, so it's not really going to get that hot. So we'll get the real test of how it works out for me here in the spring and summer. But so far, yeah, pretty good at 79. All right, moving down. People saying 78. Yep, 78, 79. I know a guy that keeps it at 76, and he has acros all through his shit, and he's successful. So whatever works for you, I guess. I would try to keep it as close to your indoor temperature. I mean, I keep my house at 71, which people complain is cold as shit all the time. But down here in the basement, it's at 76 to 78-ish all the time just because of the heat and the lights and all sorts of stuff. So keeping the tank at 79 is pretty natural for what I got going down here for temperature. Moving down. Have you ever had an issue with your Jaybo UV? I saw someone post a pic and a vid on Facebook showing their Jaybo UV turning the water black when he wiped it out paper towel and turned it black. Never had that issue. Did the bulb leak? I have two Jaybos 55 watts. I only have one hooked up now. No issues with that. I just changed out the bulb probably 3 or 4 months ago. I think I did a video on that, maybe. And yeah, never had an issue. Never. I don't know. There's got to be something wrong with that one. That's the best answer I can give you on that one, buddy. Okay, I have a 40.2 ATO tank. Should I dose it with 2-part bottles? Well, when it comes to dosing, it really is dependent on how often you're using or how much of your nitrates and phosphates, alkalinity and calcium you're using up on a weekly basis. Are you dipping down in between water changes? That's a good indication. So the best way to figure this out is if do a water change on Sunday or whatever day you want, test within 24 hours what your alkalinity and your calcium is, and then test in a week or maybe 2 weeks to see where it's at then. If you're dropping points, say from 9 to 7 in that short amount of time, then yes, you might want to consider using 2-part. But yeah, it's gonna depend on what you got going on. Moving down. Hex. I have a 50 cube with 4 acros, couple hammers, and some other LPS. I use Kalkwasser and ATO, fairly low demand tank. Is there a trace elements product that you recommend to easily dose? Yep. Refuel or Reef Plus. Pretty easy stuff. I have a video on it somewhere. A 300-gallon playlist. I definitely do have a video somewhere on that mix of a couple hundred of them. My bubble tip's mouth is sticking up any tips. Is it hungry? I don't know. I mean, bubble tips, I've had a couple that weren't happy, changed the flow in the tank, and then they were happy. So consider feeding it or changing the flow a little bit. What kind of light you got going on there? Are you blasting it? Usually they will move depending on how the tank is. If the whole tank is making them unhappy, then that's probably something you want to look into. Moving down. Hex, how many total watts over the 300? I don't know. 8 4-foot T5 bulbs and 8 XR15s. Do the math. Are hermit crabs okay in bare bottom tanks? Yes, they are fine in bare bottom tanks. They'll be up on the rocks pissing around. They'll go down on the bottom and mess with the detritus, but they're fine. Yeah. Ooh, shit, it scrolled all the way down on me. Let's go move down. Thanks for answering each other's questions here. Any inverts to keep in a sump, maybe a refugium area? No. Usually, if I have a rogue hermit crab that likes to pick at my corals or emerald crab that likes picking at corals, I'll throw them in the refugium. I usually save the refugium for bad fish that I can catch, a timeout area, or just inverts again that are going rogue on corals. But other than that, you don't need anything in your refugium. Nick, what about Duncan corals? They are probably my favorite so far. I'm guessing that's what you meant to say. Also, hammer corals are really nice. Yeah, it's probably part of another question that was way up there. But yeah, easy LPS. Duncans are super sweet. They do grow relatively quickly. Hammers, again, grow pretty quickly as long as you got enough flow in a good area. Moving down. Remember, John, new corals, no new corals in 6 months. Ended up with a mite that took out some zoanthids. Let me start that over. Okay. No new corals in 6 months. Ended up with a mite that took out some zoanthids. Don't know how I got them. They are attached to the rocks. Any recommendations? A mite? Can you get a picture of that, John? You have my email though, so hey, send me a picture of that. Never heard of a mite taking out zoanthus. I've heard about nudibranchs taking out zoanthus, but not a mite. It's kind of strange. If you can get me a picture, or if you can find something off of Google, send it to me. I'll put my email up here real quick, and if I can get over to it, possibly. There we go. Oh, actually, it's going over to the other monitor. Okay. Send me a email with a picture of that. I'll be happy to help you out, but I've never heard of a mite doing that. Nudibranchs, yes. And in that case, you got to remove the colony. You got to dip the colony. You got to quarantine the colony because the eggs will be up underneath the zoanthids, and it's a huge pain in the ass. So hopefully it's not those. Moving down. Thoughts on Bionic 2-part? I heard it has all the trace elements, all need for the mixed reef. Never used it. I have no opinion on it. I've heard it's good. The reviews seem to be pretty good, but personally never used it. I've used BRS 2-part. I've used a Calcwasser and a calcium reactor, and the calcium reactor is where it's at for me, anyways. Next question: if you dose 0.2 ppm phosphates to maintain a 0.05 ppm when you test 24 hours later, should I be concerned about dosing too much in one dose, or should I spread out the dose throughout the day? You don't have to spread out. You're not really dosing that much, so just do it all at one time. Your key when it comes to testing nitrates and phosphates is to test at the same time every day, not anywhere near when you dosed, because that can impact the test. Not anywhere near when you fed, you added supplements or trace elements or anything. You want to make sure it's usually at night before the lights go off. You haven't done anything with the tank all day, and you can get an accurate reading of where your nutrients are at. I wouldn't worry too much about that. Next question: my torch coral won't open. Nitrates 5 to 10 ppm. Any suggestions? Flow. How much flow you got on it? Is it getting blasted? Usually that's we'll keep them in their the little shell there. So yeah, I would check on and see what your flow is. If it's getting nailed pretty hard, it's not going to want to open up. And what are your phosphates at? If you're bottoming out phosphates, that could really piss them off. Just because you have good nitrates doesn't mean your phosphates are going to be in a good range. And light. Got enough light over it. They don't really require a ton of light, but if you have barely anything in the tank, that could be an issue too. And vice versa. If you have a ton of light and you're blasting it and you're getting like 500 par on a torch coral, it's probably not going to like that either. So a little bit more information would be nice, but in general, just keep standard, water parameters and not too much flow, and they usually are pretty easy to keep happy. Oh shit, moving down. Looks like we got about half an hour left. That'll be 2 hours. Man, stuff moves pretty quickly. All right, next question. I have a 60-gallon cube with a lot of rock going up at an angle from the middle of the tank to almost the top and the back. Is there a general rule to follow for how many wave makers you need? Usually when it comes to flow, I let it kind of be determined on the type of tank. You have sand in the tank. Is it bare bottom? That's a big factor in how much flow you want to put in there. I would say also the type of corals you plan on putting in the tank. If you're just going for like mixed reef, like mix of a little bit of SPS, mostly LPS and zoanthids and soft corals and shit like that, then I would say start off with just some basic power head on each side of the tank. See how the tank reacts to it, and then if you find that you want a little bit more flow, maybe the polyps are not moving the way you want them to in the tank, then consider getting some more power heads. But I would avoid just blasting everything. The only type of tank that really likes to get blasted, I'll scroll off on a tangent again, that really likes a lot of flow is a fully SPS bare bottom tank like the 300. I could slam that thing with 20,000 gallons per hour, full blast all day long, and it does really, really well, and it's happy with that. It just comes down to the way the tank is laid out. Sand, no sand, and kind of what corals you plan on putting in there. Thanks, man. Travis, the 300 is a work of art. Thank you. It's doing all right. I see flaws every time I look at it. Like, I could have fixed this. I could have did that. I wish that I could look at the tank the way that some of you guys look at it, because I think I would enjoy it more. Right now, I look at it, I'm just like, I got to fix this, or I got to go in there and I got to cut, and I got to do this, and I got to do that. I don't get the joy out of it that I used to. And that's one of the downsides of making your hobby your business, is that I still get the benefits of it to help kind of calm me, but I don't get the benefits that I used to get back when it wasn't a business. But, sometimes, things happen. Moving down here, you guys are answering the question. Have you ever used, or have I ever used, if it lets me click, have I ever used Peroxide as a dip? No, I have not. I have seen people use it to get rid of algae off frag plugs. So you get a coral and it's got a bunch of algae on it. I've seen people do that, and it has worked. I've never personally done it, but yeah, it doesn't kill soft corals from what I know. It doesn't kill soft corals. I've never tried it or seen it done on SPS. That would be a different story. But yeah, moving down. It could be, yeah, it could be a spider in there, John. A couple people said this for you. Could be a spider, which again is going to eat your zoanthids and are a huge pain in the ass. Usually manual removal. I don't know what their egg laying process is. I've never looked into it, but they're a huge pain in the ass. Moving down. Every time you skip to a member question, you miss all the previous questions. Yeah, you'll have that. I missed a few. A lot of you guys are answering questions for each other, so I decided to kind of let you guys do your thing on that. So I didn't feel like I was answering questions twice. But yeah, sorry about that. Somebody Scott answered that here for your peroxide question. Here's somebody used the Bionic strong. Okay, let me get down here. Any thoughts on how to safely remove a sand bed? Yeah, what I like to do is remove about, when you do your bi-weekly water change, about 20%, siphon out as much sand as you possibly can during that water change. Once you're done with that 20% water change, don't remove any more sand until your next water change. So, just use your siphoning hose, skim the top layer. You just want to do it by layers. You don't want to just stick the tube all the way down, 3 or 4 inches into the bottom of the sand bed and mix all that stuff up, because you might hit some of those gas pockets, which could get into the tank and cause issues. So your best bet is just to take off a layer during a water change and do this over several months to slowly remove the sand. That is the safest way to do it. And it's always worked out for everybody who's done it that way, that I've at least seen. Hey, Travis, Coral QT, fresh system, still cycling. Do I use a fresh mixed salt water or the water in the uncycled tank? Use freshly mixed salt water. You don't want to be using water that's in a cycling tank for a coral quarantine because it might have ammonia in it. Ammonia is not good for corals. You don't want to mess with that shit. So just use freshly mixed salt water. Yeah, you should be good with that. Moving down. Do staghorns and zoas get along side by side? Yes, depending on the stag. And also depending on the zoas. If you're going to get the pally zoas, those can be a little bit more aggressive because they're a little bit bigger. They like to reach for the light. Once the coral starts, the staghorn starts shading it, it starts reaching up for the light, and you can run a little bit of an issue with that. But I've never seen one actually kill a staghorn. But I have seen it irritate it, cause a little bit of STM, but nothing like completely wiping it out. Not like what corals do to them, like acros or staghorns do to themselves, where they just completely wipe each other out. Nothing that serious. But yeah, I do have some zoas actually in the mix between some of my millies, and I don't have any problems. I don't really see them. They're there, but the colonies just kind of took over. Let's go move down here. Someone said it was, John, someone says a sea spider. I guess that's the same thing as a regular spider. They just added C to it. Okay, here we go. Please explain to me why you have Jaybo yet dose phosphates and nitrates. It seems that Jaybo is removing these elements, yet they are dosed. Need to understand. Thank you. Okay, so I've explained this in the previous video. When it comes to why I have Jaybo and a powerful skimmer on my system, is because the Jaybo is used more or less to help with the calcium reactor. I dump the effluent into the Jaybo, which has a low pH. The Jaybo uses the pH from the effluent to grow, in turning elevating the pH, so I don't have such a dip in my main display. That's why I use a Jaybo. Plus, I sell, I don't know, a shit ton of Jaybo online every single month, and it'd be a huge revenue loss if I just took Jaybo out for that reason. So in the long run, I make a lot more money selling Jaybo. It's cheaper for me to just dose it, and it's more controllable to dose it. Plus, it really helps with the pH from the calcium reactor to keep the Jaybo in there and growing. Plus, I like having Jaybo. Jaybo's green. It's awesome looking. Yeah. Hope that answers your question. But generally, you would keep things stable. Jaybo only pulls out so much. Okay, it's not going to just go to town and strip your tank. It's not going to do that. Your skimmer will do that well before your Jaybo does. So keeping things consistent with the Jaybo and the skimmer, and then making adjustments with nitrates and phosphates, I like the ability to control what's going on with the tank and how stable it can be. So if I can dose something to keep my phosphates exactly where I want to keep it every single day, no matter how much I'm feeding you. Well, I could say that, but usually I feed the same amount every single day. If I can have one variant that I can control every single day to keep my tank stable, then that's something that I like. So by dosing nitrates and phosphates, I know if I dose 4 milliliters a day of phosphates, I'm going to have the set phosphates that I want in the tank. I can skip some feeding and I'll be fine. It won't drop down. It won't bottom out. I can, if I go away for a couple days or whatever, I don't have to worry about it because it's going to keep dosing those elements and I don't have to worry about bottoming out and having problems. So it's just a lot more controllability when I can dose it. So hopefully that answers your question. It's a long version, but hopefully it does. Okay. Will you tell us where the fish of hex comes from? Stands for. Okay, so I said this in the last stream too. Okay, so I did hexadecimal programming. I learned it in high school. I was going to do it as a career. I was going to do computers and stuff, but I decided to join the military instead. Did that, and then I just took the hex part of it. When I was overseas, I used it as a code name overseas, and it just stuck. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay. What coral foods do you use and how often? I don't use any coral foods. I just feed fish food. Moving down. Okay. Somebody said here. He also said, I have removed all my Jaybo, wiped my nutrients out. I'm not sure. I think I missed. You guys might be just talking to each other on that one. Travis, can you keep up with comments and Mike isn't here spamming? Yeah, that's true. I don't know where he's at. He's probably mad at me. I don't know. Nope, he hasn't texted me yet. I'll text him after we're done. All right, moving down. We got about 20 minutes left. 24. All right, Tim. Travis, I think the guy who asked about Jaybo UV saw a video where some of the cheaply made ones melted some of the black plastic poisoning the tank. Does that UV have the white inner of it? Okay, it has the black inners of it. It's not white. Not that I know of. I'm almost 100% positive it's black on the inside. But I've never had the problem. So, I mean, I don't know. Was it a Jaybo that melted and released plastic and poison into the tank? I'm not sure, man. But I know it's definitely not the ones that I have. I probably would have noticed it by now. Well, don't jinx me, man. Now I gotta keep an eye on it. I'm gonna take it apart and look at it. I gotta clean it anyways. Okay, moving down. Why is my powder brown tank swimming back and forth like he's on speed? Well, is he on speed? Susan? Are you giving your fish drugs, Susan? No, I don't know. Just like the powder blue I have here, back and forth all day long. Just what they do. I don't really have an explanation. That's just those types of tanks really like swimming back and forth like that. I don't think there's anything wrong. He probably sees his reflection. He's getting tough. Is he like is he like rubbing his nose up on the glass? Is he fighting himself? Because sometimes they do that. They're getting tough, going back and forth. Usually aggression type of thing. Okay. Hey, I accidentally broke my pink table millie at the base where I fragged. Where fragging can I just super glue it back up? Yeah. I actually just did that. I'm going to do a video on it this coming week. I actually broke off a huge chunk off the left rock structure. Massive chunk of that purple tort. And I just, where it broke off at the base, I just glued it back on the rock. I just wedged it in there enough with some super glue and it seems to be fine. It looks super weird, but my hope is that it will grow and fix itself. All right, let's go down. Moving down. Scott's answering questions. Appreciate it, man. Question, is it okay to keep my UV sterilizer in the main part of the tank? If you don't have a sump, I guess you can. It's probably going to be a little bit of an eyesore, so maybe having a sump and putting it in there might be better. Or I don't keep mine in the sump. I have it attached to a manifold that's in the sump that just kind of, I have the UV sterilizer itself, I guess, drilled onto the cement wall, the provided brackets, and then I just run the tubing over into the sump. But if you don't have that option, yeah, you can put it in the main display. It's probably going to look like shit, though. All right, moving down. What would you want? Okay, what would you want out of a Reef Club meeting? My first one for the area is 2 weeks, and I'm hosting free frags, free food, only 10 interested, Chattanooga and then Tennessee. Okay, so if I was going to a Reef Club meeting, which I've never been to one, I've been invited to a couple. I just haven't been able to go. Free frags. That's cool. Free food. Definitely cool. Shit, I don't know. I mean, you pretty much covered it. You have free frags. Everybody likes free frags, and everybody loves free food. I would say good conversation and strippers. There you go. Yeah, bring some strippers. That'll bring some people around. Not the cheap ones, though. Not the ones off the street. Yeah, you don't want to know that. Go to a club and get real ones. And don't be a cheap ass about it either. Moving down. Fish of Hacks has given me advice and told me to bring strippers. It's going to be all over fucking Reef to Reef tomorrow. Moving down. Is the 3DE option to glue sand on the bottom? I don't know what the hell that is. You want to glue sand on the bottom? Why? I don't know. Let's move down. Strippers and Mitch. Oh, I'm finally caught up. I am. Nice. I am finally caught up. We got 20 minutes left. Good. So yeah, if we're gonna do a little bit, do a few more questions. I skipped over a bunch of them. I could probably scroll back up and get them, but you guys have been doing a pretty good job answering each other's questions, especially Scott going to town on it, doing it for me. I really appreciate that. Yeah. So yeah, any more questions we can come through here? If not, then I'm just gonna talk about some random shit. We got some stuff coming in now, but let me change my banner here. Okay. Make sure you guys give the stream a thumbs up if you like it. Now, I kind of like this pace. This is a good pace. It's not too crazy. Last week was pretty crazy. I think it was because of our new one. This one's kind of chilled out. I'm not mad. I'm pretty happy about it. I don't feel like I'm kind of stressed. I'm trying to get all the questions answered as much as possible. But yeah, so what's the next one here? Strippers and what? Did I mail strippers and... Okay. See, this is what happens. I bring this shit up and you guys just go off on your own. Travis, there was at one time a YouTube video. Okay. I think in Jaybo 55 watts. John, are you just adding to this? Because I know that I read something similar to this. So Travis, there was at one time a YouTube video, and I think Jaybo was one of them, as long as it was the proper lining and very unlikely. I lucked out and got a 55 watt lifeguard UV and was on clearance. Okay, yeah. So I don't know. I've never had an issue with the UV from Jaybo having any issues with it leaching anything into the tank. But given how Jaybo company as general is just kind of not, their products aren't doing very well for me. At least for me, they're not being. It cost me a lot of money, so I got to figure out what I'm going to do. But I've never had an issue with that, and I've had two of them. They work up pretty good. And I still have one that works. I just don't have a place to put it. I don't have it on the setup now. All right, moving down here. Okay, I'm not even getting into that. You guys are already going on that question. I'm going on a Reef to Reef right now. Hex told me to eat my fish while getting lap dance from expensive strippers. Okay. That's great. I already got a shitty reputation, so we might as well fucking add to it. I don't care. Any experience with filefish? Yes, I've used them in the past in a client's tank. He really wanted them, and he had aptasia too. He said, what should I do about this? And I really like the filefish. So it was like, oh, good luck. Guess what, man? You can have filefish, and they'll eat your aptasia. So they're pretty cool. They're ugly as shit, though. I think they're really ugly. They don't move very fast. They don't really do anything. I would never own one, but to each his own, I suppose. What is your evaporation rate on your system? Okay, so I have a 30-gallon ATO container. I fill it up 2.5 times a week. So whatever that is, on 500 gallons of water. So whatever that is, that's pretty decent. Okay. Oop, got to scroll up. Questions coming in. It might be, I think there's just the delay was there and it wasn't there. And now it is. Do an enemies fight without touching carpet and Coney? Coney isn't happy since carpeted enemies will mow down any other one. Carpets, I've gotten a horrible sting from a carpet. I don't know if I was just allergic to it or whatever, man, but it almost put me in the hospital. It was awful. This was a long time ago. It was at a buddy's house. I just touched it, man. It was not good. But yeah, carpets are very strong, and they will kill any coral they touch. If you ever want to get rid of GSP, put a carpet next to it, man. It will just melt it away. Yeah, that's probably why he's not happy. Get him away from the carpet. I thought I'd 1,000 questions to you asked last. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, Travis. Hey, Travis. How would you beat go about finding zoanthid pests? Are they most likely nocturnal, or do they stand out on red light or anything? Thanks for tips. The best way to go about getting them is during a quarantine period at night. Yeah, most of those spiders and those nudibranchs you're going to find at night with a flashlight. They're really easy then. There's no blue light. There's no shimmering or any kind of bullshit like that. You'll find them pretty quickly at night. And you want to find them in a quarantine tank. You don't want to find them in your main display. Those are freaking awful, man. And especially if you get them on some high-end zoanthids and they just start mowing them down. It's just watching like $100 bills just fucking disappear overnight. I feel bad for anybody dealing with that. It's just, and yeah. Quarantine your zoas, man. That's a big thing. Jesus. Zoas and acros. They'll get you. They'll get you real bad. Oh, man, I went all the way down. Okay. How do you like your tank's dimensions? Would you do anything different? Bigger tank. I like the 30 inches tall. It's a little bit of a pain in the ass when it comes to getting stuff off the bottom of the tank, but nothing that a pair of extended tweezers can't take care of. Height 30 inches is pretty good because when you're standing in front of it, it feels like you actually have, it's taller than you, and well, at least for me, I'm 5'8", so it's taller than me. And it just feels like it's in my face. I like that. The new tank will be 2 feet wide, 2 feet longer, so it'll be 10 feet long. It'll be 4 feet wide opposed to 2 with the same height, but it'll be a peninsula, so only the far right side will be against the wall, so I could be able to walk around 3 sides of it, obviously. And I wouldn't be able to do anything in a tank unless it was a peninsula at that size. I couldn't even imagine trying to aquascape or fragscape a 4-foot tank crawling over it with only on one side. That'd be awful. But so far, this tank's pretty cool. It's small. I know people, it's something that you grow into, but bigger is always better. All right, next question. Favorite staghorn? Well, I like the oh man, gee, I'm just trying to think what one I want. I got a couple. I got 2 of them in here that I really like. I really like that green purple tip stag. I have 2 colonies of it, huge in this tank. The one that's right behind the WWC in the middle left rock structure, that big green with a purple tip. The camera just doesn't do it any justice. I call it the green with a purple tip because I don't know the name of it. It came in as a random from a core order that I got, and I went through and got it all set and ready to go and put it in the tank. And I love that damn thing. I wish I knew the real name of it. But just the way that it grows and the purple tips are just, it's hard to explain. And the camera just sucks at making it look good. Moving down. And it skipped all the way down. Some guy said my filefish also destroyed all of my acans. Yeah, that is one of the downsides to the filefish is if it runs out of Aptasia, it can eat your zoas and it can eat your acans. Not all the time, but every fish has its own personality. And most people use that fish as a utility fish. Like, hey, I'm going to put it in my tank because they're not the fastest fish in the world. They're not the smartest fish in the world. So they're relatively easy to catch. And most people just put them in as a natural way to get Aptasia and take care of it. They don't want to spend all the money on nudibranchs or any other method. And once it takes care of them, they usually just pull out the fish and it goes on to another tank. Yeah, they will eat your corals sometimes. Hey, Mr. Hex. Hey, what's up, Chad? I have your red Digi Stag Rainbow Grand Rainbow Millie and Cali Tor. Is it normal for the Cali to have much slower growth rate? Compared to a staghorn, a standard staghorn, or a Digi, yes, the Cali will grow slower. One way to know if the Cali's happy is if it's really green, it's not getting enough light. So that could indicate, could be part of the reason why you have slower growth. So make sure it's blue with a little bit of purple in it, just a little bit of green at the base, and then it's happy. It will grow slower, but once it takes off, it gets established. It moves pretty quickly, but it's nothing compared to a red Digi, some of the other stags, or on the Rainbow Millie. That thing grows pretty quick too. So yeah, that's normal. I think you're good. And the fact that you keep them all alive, you're definitely doing something right. Okay, moving down. Okay. You can tell from my avatar that I don't mind. Okay. I was wondering if that was you. It's fucked up. All right. They're talking about anemones here. Yeah, slow down here, guys. We got, 10 minutes left? Just kind of chilling. Adjusting myself. My ass cheek is numb. So let's go. Do you plan on getting a bigger tank when your tanks get bigger? I will have a bigger tank before they get any bigger. So the plan is we got 2 years left on this tank. I've officially decided that 2 years is it because that gives me enough time to get the new house built, to get it built the way I want, and kind of, I have certain things that I'm looking for, the need to kind of fit. I can't be near the city. I have to be somewhat in the country, not like bumfuck middle nowhere, but I do have to have country. I need to have an area. I like to be able to hunt on my own land, and I like to be able to fit a 4-foot wide tank into the basement. So those are some things that I got to get going, and it has to be obviously either new or it has to be new enough to support 300 gallon on the first floor too. So yeah, I am going to get a bigger tank, and I am going to hopefully get a lot more tanks that will eventually grow and be very big. That Flamingi tank though, she's going to be happy in the new tank for sure, because I don't know, I mean 2 more years in here with her, given that she's only 2 years old right now and she's that big. So hope she slows down soon. She's gonna be breaking everything. She already breaks corals. She does. She likes to hang out on the left-hand side where she is now because there's a lot more air to swim there, or up at the top on the left-hand side. But when she starts trying to fit through some of these rock structures, she's breaking shit off all the time. So a little destructor. Moving down here. Sorry, I'm back. You're the man. My torch won't open. Nitrates 5 to 10 ppm. Any suggestions? Yeah, I think I answered this, right, man? Pretty sure I answered this question already. Maybe worded differently. Scrolling down. Why are some people's names green? I'm assuming if their names are green, let me scroll up here. If they have like a little S next to the name, like Chad, I have to get to yours here in a little bit. If you have a little S, that means they support the channel. I don't see it on my end here, unfortunately, and I got to get with the owners of this program and figure out why I don't see it, because it's a little bit of an issue. I want to be able to see it, so because they support the channel, so they get their questions answered first for that support. So yeah, let me move down here. So I think, and that's what you're talking about. Do you have a manifold plumbed with a second pump instead of the main pump, return pump? I have 2 pumps in my return section. I have a Jaybo DCS 12,000 that takes care of the 300, the carbon reactor, and the UV sterilizer, as well as the Refugium. I have a Jaybo DCS 18,000 that takes care of the 40 shallow reef, the 50-gallon grow out tank or healing tank, whatever you want to call it. And then I have the 2 tanks I just added. Those are also connected to it, and they're not even cranked up all the way. So 2 pumps. I do have 1 manifold, that one I mentioned before, that has a manifold built into it that takes care of the UV sterilizer, the Refugium, and the carbon reactor. Okay, moving down. Members of what? Okay, so if you go to the YouTube channel, it says join. Those are the perks that I offer for the channel. I do a Q&A every single day. Maybe Sundays, sometimes I don't do it, but every day I put up a post that says the date and Q&A. Any questions that need to be answered and stuff, go into there, and they get answered within a couple hours usually. I check it multiple times throughout the day. And you get various perks. Like I do a members video every single week. It's just a quick video, unedited, some stuff I got going on here. You get behind the scenes stuff, things that no one else sees on any other platform. You get your questions answered first. It's a pretty cool place. And then at the end of all my videos, recently, if you guys have seen, I do a scrolling credit. So anybody who supports, no matter what you spend, you get part of those credits. You get a shout out on every one of my videos. So yes, that's what the member of what is. Okay, let's go ahead and move down. How do you get rid of verminted snails? By not getting them in the first place. That's it. You can't get rid of them. You just can't. They're fucking awful. And even after, and I've talked about this before, they came into my system from that big LPS coral that's in the middle. Even after quarantining it, I still got them because I didn't keep them in quarantine long enough. Even a couple months, it wasn't long enough apparently. And I still got them from that. And when I saw the first one, I was ready to tear the tank down at that point, but I said fuck it and just kept going. I should have tore it down and fixed the problem, but they don't bother the corals, at least not in my system. They don't bother the corals. They don't go out on any corals. They will grow on an occasional frag plug that's easy to remove, but yeah, they're one of those things that once you get them, you're not getting rid of them. You can put all the bumblebee snails you want. You can super glue it all you want. It doesn't matter. You're not getting rid of them unless you restart. Okay. Oh shit. We got 5 minutes left. Fucking, do you like fish sticks? Oh my god. Okay. What is my opinion on Neptune wave system pumps? Never used them, heard good things. They are pretty pricey, so they better work well. Never used them, though. But there are some good reviews on them. And the controllability is also pretty awesome. So, moving down. Can you point out the blue-green Stag you have for sale on your website? Okay, so on this video now, I'm pretty sure I'm looking at the other live stream. So if you look at the middle left rock structure behind the big one in the center, the very back, just behind it, that is that Stag horn, the blue-green Stag. And it's, so if you, the only way you're going to get it now, because I don't keep too many frags of it up, I have to get in here and frag it, honestly. But the only way you're going to get it now is if you go to the You Pick frag packs, where you build your own custom frag pack. You can select that as one of the ones you want, and I'll cut it to order. That's the only way you're going to be able to get it right now, unless you've come to, you happen to find it later on when I actually cut it. So the way it works, guys, is I trim the tank every single week, multiple times a week, usually 2 at the most. And I'll trim out the grow up system, and I'll trim out the 40 gallon, depending on where corals are growing. And then I'll frag them out, put them in that 150 gallon tank, and they'll heal for a few weeks. Once they heal, I will then take pictures of them, and then they'll go up as WYSIWYG. So there isn't there's never going to be the same coral. There might be multiples of one. There could be, just random corals depending on how the things are growing. So that's why I put up that You Pick pack. So you can pick however, I don't know. I think it's like 1 frag up to 15 frags or something. I'm not sure. You can pick whatever you want, and I'll cut those to order for people who want specific corals from the tank, and you don't want to wait on for them to just be naturally cut as they grow. So you can do that if you want. So yeah, we have 3 minutes and 30 seconds left. Some feedback on the stream would be nice. Let me know what you guys think. We did pretty good so far. Thanks for the new member. I just saw something come in on another screen, not on mine yet, but appreciate all the support. Now, if you guys like this stuff, feel free to let me know. I'm going to put up some, I'll probably put a post up in the community tab after this just for some feedback. I'm probably just going to do that for the first few streams just so I can make any adjustments. Let me know what you guys think, what you guys would like to change, anything you want to be differently, how it's laid out, what I say, anything like that. And we'll just go from there. That's the only way we're going to be able to grow is if we make some changes. And Brian, I will be looking in to see why I can't see my members on my current screen here, which is extremely irritating. I want to be able to see that. So yeah, we got 3 minutes left. Let me see if give you guys an update. All right, so I have been building this little DIY project with the 3D printer. It's basically going to allow me to use the Dremel tool underwater to kill that purple Monty on the middle right rock structure right there that keeps growing. This will allow me to get in there and just use the Dremel tool to kind of cut it up and shred it into a million pieces. And right now I have a really good design. I'm going to put some more pictures up. I did my first test today. Now I am building it with PLA, which isn't very strong. It's just as a demo. And it works. It really works. It's basically an attachment to a Dremel with a new line that goes through a tube to a custom handle, which goes to a fitting, a blade, which then allows me to go in there and cut up the coral. So again, I tried it on PLA. It did ruin the PLA because there was a little bit of vibration, and of course it's PLA. So I do have some ABS plastic that will be here tomorrow. So I'm going to do another mock build up with the ABS plastic, give it another shot, move some things around and see. But it's going to be pretty sweet. It's going to allow me to just hook to any Dremel and get in there and work in my tank without getting electrocuted. And it's good if you want to cut corals instead of using bone cutters. You can cut some bigger colonies without breaking them off. And really the main purpose is just to shred that purple Monty into a billion pieces. I'm probably going to have to figure out how I'm going to do it, but also siphon out all the pieces at one time, because if I'm breaking it up into little pieces like that, unless it's dead flow, it might get all over the tank and start populating all over the place. And speaking of that, I'm going to do a video on this eventually as well. My green Polypora, I think it is having a whole shit ton of babies in my 300. They're the whole back of the glass. There's little babies of SPS growing on the back glass all throughout the rock structures, just babies of this green Polypora. It's all over my grow out tank as well. It actually happened in my client's tank too. So this is a coral that really likes having babies apparently. But yeah, so that's about it. We got 1 minute left. I appreciate you guys being here. It was definitely productive. If you like it, give the video or the stream a thumbs up. Again, I will post a little bit of a before and after, kind of what you guys think here once the stream is done. And yeah, don't be afraid to let me know what's going on. That way I can fix the problem and we can keep this going. All right, so That's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you tomorrow with another video. All right, peace.